So you're sitting in the SAT, you've just turned the page, and now you can see the prompt. What are you going to be doing? Well, the first thing you're going to be doing is ignoring this top box. This top box, as you read, etc., you don't need to read that ever again. Okay, don't bother with it. It doesn't contain any important information for you. Skip it. Time is of the essence. You need as much time as possible to write your essay. Do not read the top box. What you will start reading is this highlighted portion here, this bolded portion. This adapted from former US President Jimmy Carter, forward to Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, Seasons of Life on Land. That portion is important because it gives you the person who is speaking or writing this extract or speech that you're going to be analyzing. So you do need that. But even more importantly is this bottom part, the first sentence. Write an essay in which you explain how Jimmy Carter built an argument to persuade his audience that the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge should not be developed for industry. This is crucial, crucial, crucial. So the first thing you read is the bolded portion at the top, then skip, don't read the actual essay or speech, skip to this bottom box and read this first sentence, right? And especially pay attention to this part. Persuade his audience that the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge should not be developed for industry. That is crucial. Now you know exactly what Jimmy Carter is attempting to persuade you as the reader about. He wants your help, he wants your support in terms of preserving the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, that it should not be developed for industry. Okay. In this essay, let's do the same process, right? This is College Board Essay 1. So the author is Paul Bogard, and the title of it is Let There Be Dark. And we skip to the bottom and we read the first sentence. Write an essay in which you explain how Paul Bogard builds an argument to persuade his audience that natural darkness should be preserved. Again, the key portion, that natural darkness should be preserved. That's super important. Okay, that is all the information we need for writing this introduction. That's it. Okay, it's pretty cool, isn't it? It takes us probably 30 seconds to read the relevant portion of the text, and now using that, we'll be ready to sort of put that into our template, right? And we'll have a very solid introduction which will come out of that. Okay, let's move on to the template part of the introduction. Here it is here. Okay, so I'm just going to read it through once and then we'll talk about it. Aristotle's treatise, The Art of Rhetoric, is often cited as a tool that can aid in the analysis of rhetoric. Within rhetoric, the eminent philosopher outlines the various devices of persuasion, often referred to as rhetorical appeals. These devices fall into three different categories: ethos, pathos, and logos. Now, using Aristotle's criteria for analyzing rhetorical persuasiveness, we turn to examining a foreword written by former President Jimmy Carter, within which he argues that the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge should not be developed for industry. Okay, so you can see immediately we're using Aristotle's treatise, The Art of Rhetoric, as a framework for analyzing his foreword, okay, his article. So what you're going to do is this portion, the non-yellowed portion, you're going to memorize. And every time you take an SAT essay, you're going to write that, right? You'll write it down verbatim, okay? Colon for colon, comma for comma, adjective for adjective. Literally write it, memorize it, and write it down. The yellow portions will obviously be different depending on the prompt, right? So in this case, we had a foreword, right? A foreword is something at the beginning of a book. Sometimes you might have an article written by, or you might have a speech by, right? It all depends. So a foreword by, and then of course the speaker or the writer, former President Jimmy Carter, within which he, obviously you just change the gender each time, he, she, argues that, and of course this is from the bottom, right? This is from that bottom box. I just verbatim write exactly that key point which was that the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge should not be developed for industry. You can see it's identical here. The Arctic National Wildlife Refuge should not be developed for industry. Exactly the same. Okay, that's no problem. The point is, when the graders are looking at your introduction, they want to know clearly that you understand what the speaker or writer is trying to persuade you of. That's what they're going to be mostly focusing on. Okay. You can see I gave a whole bunch of other sample introductions here, right? I'm just showing you that there's multiple ways to do it, right? Same again, you just, this portion is memorized, you write it each time, and then the yellowed portions you'll change each time, depending on the prompt. Okay, very self-explanatory. Very self-explanatory. Okay. Let's go on to another one, which is the Paul Bogard one. And just so you can see a different one. So it's the same here, identical here, right? And then we get the changes. An article written by Paul Bogard. Okay, if we go back here, adapted from Paul Bogard's Let There Be Dark in the Los Angeles Times. That's a newspaper, so it's probably an article. Okay. An article written by Paul Bogard within which he argues that, and then again we look right at the bottom, that natural darkness should be preserved. Okay. That natural darkness should be preserved. And that's all there is to it for the introduction. Now, the beauty of this is you're not wasting time, right? You're quickly writing something, and it's something which looks compelling and well thought out, right? To me, the hardest part about writing is getting started. And this gives you that quick, boost. Obviously, there's a bit of work you guys are gonna have to put in. You're gonna have to memorize, memorize the part of the template. But to me, it's not a difficult thing to memorize. You just put in the time. Now, a few pointers. Some kids always say to me, Mr. Kirby, but, if we're all memorizing this and we're all writing it and we're all writing the same thing, is that a problem? No, it's not a problem. No problem. Because the rest of your essay is going to be extremely different, right? I'm just giving you a framework, which is Aristotle's Rhetoric, to analyze things for. And you're just using that as a tool, as a plan. The actual analysis, which we'll get into subsequently when we talk about ethos, pathos, and logos, those will be very different. You'll focus on very different things in each one of your essays. So don't worry about that at all. If you do want to slightly amend my introduction, I don't mind, that's fine, go for it. But bear in mind two things. Please make sure that your introduction is grammatically perfect. Don't make any mistakes in your introduction in terms of the grammar that you put in, or your spelling or anything like that. Okay, it's really important to make a very positive first impression to the graders, right? They don't want to read something which is terrible. Then you make a bad first impression, and then your score's going downhill from there. So whatever you write, have someone you really respect who's good at English or whatever, have them check it if you do want to change it. I strongly recommend you stick to my samples, pick one that you feel most comfortable with and use that. What mustn't change is this last part, okay? The part where you explain who the speaker is and what they're trying to persuade the audience or the readers of. That must stay the same. Okay, great. I think that covers up everything for the introductions. So, this file will be on the website. Download it, have a look at it, practice with it, and I'm sure you'll be cranking out really good introductions in no time. Okay, great. So in the next video, we're going to be talking about ethos. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you then. Chat to you soon.